Welcome to Digication Scholars Conversations. I'm your host, Jeff Yan. In this episode, you will hear part 2 of my conversation with Lucy Smith, Director of Engaged Learning at Salt Lake Community College. More links and information about today's conversation can be found on Digication's Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Full episodes of Digication Scholars Conversations can be found on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. You had talked about civic engagement, civic community engagement, civic literacy quite a lot. I did get to, but I was prior to the meeting, I was looking up, I want to make sure I got your title right. And, if people change titles and stuff, and I looked you up, and in Slick's directory, it listed your portfolio right next to your name. So I clicked on it. It's amazing. You have this beautiful portfolio. And quick side note here. I think that people that actually build portfolios and teach with it are better. They understand more, of that intimately, what it means to sort of put it together. But nevertheless, I took a look at your portfolio and I love it. And it's not only because, look, you've achieved a lot, and I know a lot of people have achieved a lot in education, and but there are some aspects of it that I feel like it's just undeniable. And you were saying before that I love civic engagement. This is me. This is what I do. I live for equity. I live for all these things, and you do. And in your portfolio, there's an equity statement, and in which you talk about what this means to you and what you value. To me, that is such an amazing representation of someone modeling, this type of, process for their students. And I could see why, you've been successful at this. So can we talk a little bit about the idea of civic engagement and how that has permeated through your programs? It seems like it has through Slick altogether.
Yep.
Let's talk a little bit about that, and maybe in the context also of what is it? Like, give us some examples of it, right? But how does it permeate itself through? I mean, people. I mean, sure, there might be someone who can study civic engagement. I don't even know whether it's such, that you can study in as a major. But if I studied accounting or writing or journalism or nursing, how does civic engagement come into play?
Yeah. Well, for a couple of those examples, right? Like English, for example, is a good one. I mean, you can look at the literal translation of like students in English classes, maybe tutoring younger kids, reading at the YMCA or through like Boys and Girls Clubs or things of that nature. Right? That's a literal translation. But a lot of our English faculty members actually just use many other types of service. Like students will go and do gardening with Wasatch Community Gardens, or they'll serve food at Catholic Community Services. And it gives students a vehicle for their writing, and it gives students the ability to do something in a hands-on way that helps them be more passionate about their writing, because they're not just looking up a bunch of stuff, or looking up research and reading things and then having to come up with something to write about, but they can actually write about their actual experiences. And that is something that I hear from the English faculty over and over and over, is they really appreciate how it really helps students. It gives them real world experiences to write about, and writing for change is something that our English faculty member talk about as well, right? And that writing can be a form of activism, and how you do that. And then, other examples like in health sciences, we have our, dental hygiene department, and they have their clinic, right? And they could just, do their clinic and serve folks in their clinic, but they specifically have a civic and community engagement focus. So do our occupational therapy assisting program. and they specifically reach out to underserved communities. They work with like the dental hygiene folks work with an organization called Communities Building Communities, and so they're helping. I just presented to them today and was talking to them, and the students are like, wow, we're nervous to go to this organization. It's called Communities Building Communities, and they'll work with people that have never had dental care, people that don't get regular cleanings, people that just don't have access, don't have health insurance. And they're talking about like the root cause of like what is this social issue that is like
Mhm.
what is it the root cause of people not having access to healthcare in like one of the richest countries in the world, right? And you could have a program like dental hygiene that essentially just that students do their work, they do their clinic, they do all these things, and it's hands on and it's very nature, but it doesn't have to be civically focused, right? Where they're focused on working with communities who don't have access to care and analyzing the why and helping students learn
Mm.
about the why and dissect the social issue of access to healthcare and why that's an issue and how students impact that, right? As advocates for change. So, I mean, there's a ton of examples, and that's kind of part of the fun part about my job is being able to brainstorm with faculty and say, yeah, this is, yeah, because I have to be a bit of a jack of all trades, right? Because when I work with faculty, I I have to brainstorm with faculty in disciplines across campus, many different disciplines, right? In business and health sciences and science, math, and engineering and English and all this stuff. They're like, well, I don't know. How would you incorporate service in the arts? And I'm like, I don't know. And we have to brainstorm and figure out like
Mhm.
what their learning outcomes are and how those relate to, how those might relate to service that the students might do in the community. And it's a fun task. And it's one that I really appreciate because I've never seen myself as the sage on the stage or, oh, I'm the like penultimate expert in X, Y, or Z, right? But I do see myself as somebody who is good at generating ideas with people. And I do, as you said, have a deep, unabiding, long term commitment to service. And I've done service my whole, most of my adult life and had some of the most formative experiences through the service that I've done. And actually, that's something I want to go back to really quickly about my ePortfolio and the equity statement and the service. And that stuff doesn't come across in just a printed, boring PDF that's 14 pages. No offense to those who have CVs that are 14 pages, but I just don't think they're quite as they just don't showcase your work as nicely as like images and pictures and text, and then you can add video and things of that nature to really showcase your work. And I just really appreciate that about portfolios is they bring things to life more than
Yeah.
a boring Word doc. And I know you can do some of this in LinkedIn now, right? And you can attach documents and you can attach
Yeah.
work and stuff like that. But I don't know. I still don't quite see it as the same. Um, but
Well, I looked at your portfolio. I think it's more than 14 pages, and it was amazing. By the
yes,
way,
it's many pages. It's probably, yes, it is. But
I
go ahead.
I want when you talked about service, I heard this recently from Stephen Colbert, the
Oh,
comedian
yeah,
and
yeah,
late night
yeah.
show, and he said, I forgot who he said it to. It was very extremely moving. It was so moving. I remembered it, and I still haven't forgotten it. This must have been a month or sometime during the summer. He said this, and he said, "Service is love made visible,"
Mm,
and I think it's so true. Um, you can see it, when spread the love around your community. That's what it's in action. It's so
yeah,
beautiful. It's so
yeah.
beautiful. Now I'm getting a lot of I'm getting a lot of ideas out of what you were just saying. And one of the things um that that I feel like that should be obvious, and but it feels like we need more of Lucy in the world, more Lucys in the world to
Thank
to,
you.
to
I
show
appreciate that.
to show how it works. Is that when the students develop passion and mission through life, through experience, through being in places outside of their, their natural, habitats and environments, they get to develop those passion and mission because they start to see the contrast. They start to realize what they have been taken for granted and what's not.
That's right.
And but by developing those things, it could be for any disciplines. You could be a dental hygienist, you could be, a mathematician. I feel like it not only brings a sense of mission to your work, it also just brings you a little bit further. It takes you a little further. It takes you, it makes you, we talked about retention before. It makes that student that feel like, well, this is too much. I'm going to drop out.
Hmm.
To it's a lot, but guess what? I have this. I'm on a mission. Why it's called on a. I'm on a mission to do this. Not only do I want to get this degree and get the ability to move ahead in life, but I want to solve this problem. Maybe that problem is, eventually to try to contribute to in their own form of activism, like you said. It could be through writing, it could be through whatever work that they're doing. And it just feels like that it goes a lot beyond. So it feels like there is no cons at all to this,
Oh,
because they develop more passion. They are they have a mission to do something which makes them, sort of have more longevity and more of a north star to point towards. It allows them to, hopefully, because of that they get to, finish their degree and, and do all of that, and get the jobs and the careers that they want to build. But it also feels like that there's one big part, which is a high level of fulfillment, which is what I keep hearing when I listen to you talk, is that
well,
you live a very fulfilled life, even when you were ducking in front of your computer for 2 years building policies and procedures and web pages and stuff. It's all for a greater cause.
yes, but there are downsides. There are
Okay,
definitely
what's the
downsides.
downside?
There are very much downsides to community engaged learning, and that is something that we are very much steeped in right now is issues of equity, right?
Mm,
Issues of equity and issues of privilege and power, and students confronting those. And sometimes if students aren't prompted to go deep enough, you can have the white savior complex, right? I mean, you have students
mm,
who go in and say, or who think, well, who have maybe, I mean, there's many different examples, right? Students who go in and have preconceived notions about people experiencing homelessness, right? And
mm,
if they don't have ample reflection and guided into deeper levels of thinking and guided to talk about what the root cause of homelessness is, or addiction, or things of that nature, right, you can sometimes um, reinforce negative stereotypes. Or some students, and like international service, this is it's so challenging,
yes,
right?
yes. Mhm,
And you can reinforce, yeah, this white privilege, right, that we're coming in to save these, poor folks that, don't have the resources to be able to help themselves. And that's why it's so very important to have well constructed, guided, intentional reflections that help students understand, not only how the service connects to the discipline and what they're learning, but to the social issue more broadly and the root cause of the social issues, right? Because if you really look at the root cause of hunger, homelessness, poverty, um, all of these things, it's systemic. Racism, right? It's systemic.
mhm,
People are not poor because they choose to be poor, right? It is often because of social inequity and racism and all of these things, these larger structures. And during COVID, that's something that so many people became more aware of, which is, we still have so far to go, but it is some silver linings to COVID, as so many more people did wake up to the systemic issues that surround racism, for example, as a social issue, right? And that's something that you really have to help students understand. And we only have them, right? If they're just in one class, one community engaged learning class for one
yeah.
semester, like, how deep can you go sometimes? And through doing assessment and looking at students, right? Some students, especially students who are in, programs like our programs that are cohort models, and we have them for 2 years, and they really dig deep. They really, come out of this with some really deep reflection on the root cause of social issues and how they might positively impact them. But when students only have one semester, sometimes that's hard, right? And you only have so
Mhm.
much time. So, yes, there are downsides to it, very much so. And it's just we have to be
Yeah.
cautious of those. But one thing that I appreciate that one statement I appreciate is don't let perfection be the enemy of the good, right? So I
Yeah.
mean, we have to do the best we can and build structures to help students be able to unpack these issues to as much as to the best degree that we can, but we also need to be cautious of that. And it's something that I've really seen come full force at Slick in the past couple of years since I've been here. In the past like 5 years, we've really
Yeah.
put such a heavy focus on equity, on being equity minded practitioners, and all really learning how to like deconstruct, decolonize community engaged learning, right? Deconstruct like the white privilege that is high, or like the ivory tower that is higher education, and who gets to come and who doesn't. And I think we're in a special position at the community college to be able to do this because we were a community college, and it's a pretty special thing. And that's, again, not to disparage any 4 year institutions, because everybody's working their hardest and doing the best they can.
Yeah.
But I do feel a special love for community colleges and our mission and our equity work, and being the most diverse institution in the state of Utah, because Utah is not known for being very diverse, but we're
Right.
diverse at
Yeah.
Slick.
I mean, I do think that there is something really special about where things are. I mean, on one hand, you know, I think that in the last, I guess, not just the last during COVID, it was even, before that, there's a sense of, you know, like the whole equity thing, but it's not just that too. It's, things like gun violence, things like opioid addiction, like all these things, and the mass, incarceration of people, especially, who are underrepresented. There is almost like this boiling point of, wow, this is unacceptable. How are we accepting it? But yet we are, and things seems to just not change. And then sometimes things start to change, but then you're like, well, is it really going? I mean, Black Lives Matter started way, it's not. I mean, it got reinvigorated during COVID because of George Floyd and others, but it existed for many years before, and it didn't, it got some steam, and then people shot it down, and then it kind of lost some momentum, and then it kind of took on a back seat. And and but this last few years, it feels like that there is, on one hand, there's this turmoil, that we can all see. And I feel like it's difficult. You were talking about Louisiana. I would never shake the images of the hurricane, when it was hit, and all the houses were destroyed, and what that looks like. But maybe there is also it kind of feels like that when I looked at, like you can easily dip into that you look at the world, it's like, oh man, everything's on fire. And then
Right.
at the same time, listen to you speak about it, um, makes me feel like there is a lot of hope in, um, and opportunities to rebuild and reinforce and structure things in a way that might really change, at least higher education. It feels like it will change higher education for a long time. I mean, when I was in college, which was in the 90s, I still feel like I'm young, but
Join the
when
club.
it doesn't feel that young. Um,
That's how I hurt myself, was doing something that was not so age appropriate.
right, right. My kids, reminds me that I'm not young, but
That's
I
right.
don't know. I
That's
feel
right.
like I'm young. I felt like that at the time, there were definitely people that were wearing the activist hat, but
Mhm.
they were special to do that.
Yeah,
Everyone else was just saying, "Look, I just wanna get a job. I study wherever I'm studying. I wanna get a job there. I wanna, you know, not I wanna pay off my student loans." And at the time, student loans was a little bit more affordable too, I wanna be
yeah,
able to do that. I wanna move out of my parents', house and being able to build something of my own. That's kind of it.
yeah.
And yeah, and I feel like that now there's um, this whole layer of purpose that is exciting.
Yeah, that's what some I listened to an intergenerational researcher a little while back that talked about that our youngest generation really are very very socially right very socially aware, very concerned about social issues, and very much tuned into wanting to make change in the world. And I feel very privileged because I'm at this really nice nexus of just naturally having a kind of a half full sort of attitude, but
Yeah.
then also working in a field that is very much focused on, yes, focused on just intractable social issues, right? Like wicked problems is another way to talk about
Yeah.
it, but also I work with people, I work with faculty who are trying to impact it in a positive way, that are trying to help their students impact these social issues in positive ways, and helping students find a voice about with things that they care about, and trying to leverage the education that they have and the privilege that they have to get an education to be able to positively impact social change. And again, you look at like dental hygiene and one might think, what, dental hygienists, those guys aren't activists, but our students are really, or occupational therapy assisting. It's like, no, those guys aren't activists, but they are really the students today, and the things they said about their ability to make change, and that why people don't have access to healthcare, and why that's
Right.
an issue, and how they might be able to positively impact that. Is It's very powerful stuff. So yeah, I feel pretty blessed that I get to hear about the good, see and hear the good work that's happening in the world, and then also contribute to it. But I also realize what a privilege it is to be in the position I'm in, because I've traveled too a lot, and traveled to developing countries, right? I've traveled, we run a program to India, and I've been to India, and I've seen, the like educational opportunity there is not
Mhm.
like it is here in the US,
Right.
right? And those of us who get to have access to higher education and have the ability to do that, is it's just really such a privilege. And India has so many assets, and they're one of the largest democracies in the world. They are the largest democracy in the world, right? Well, that's what they would say, like, the US is the most powerful, they're the biggest. That's what I heard a lot when I was over there. I don't know if that's, that's still true, that we could claim that we're the most powerful in the US. We
Yeah, I dropped that.
we dropped that too. Drop
We'll edit that part out. No,
cut
no.
that, yeah, cut that's right. No, that just sounds like totally, like, full of ourselves. I don't believe in American imperialism, not at all. But, now I lost what my point was. I
So you were saying that
privilege. That's my
yeah, we're
point.
privileged to be able, yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And something else too, which is what you're doing is, has such a scalable impact to um, the community and the world. I mean, even if we just talk about the Utah community, right? And it reaches beyond that. But let's for the moment say, well, even in the Utah community, for the work that you're doing, and I know it's not necessarily just you. There is a bunch of people, your colleagues, David we talked about, and others, like working on this. But we're talking about, relatively speaking, a group of people that you can count probably in both hands. Let's say that you have a few dozen people doing this, right? Writing the policies, coming up with, structuring this culture. It allows you to affect thousands of students' lives every year and have them come out of slick and going into the community. Doesn't matter what they're doing. They could be going into accounting, they could be going into, dental hygiene, or whatever, right? Um, and they are going in there with the groundwork, the foundation that sets, you know, we have developed this passion and mission that makes the world better. And by the way, some of it they don't even have an option for, because if they don't, then the Earth isn't around for long for them to enjoy.
That's
You know,
right.
we've sort of done a number on them because we just ignore it for a few decades and keep adding to it, right? And so they're like, no, we have to do this. You know, they don't even have a choice for it. Um, but but that is an amazing impact. You know, which we're talking about. You know, like talking about scale. That's some incredible good return on investment. You
Yeah, well,
know.
it's a whole national thing, right? Like service learning has been around for over, like we talked about, not just at Slick, but nationally over 20 years, and the field has matured tremendously. I mean, there's the International Research Association on Service Learning and Community Engagement, where all the heavy hitters and research, and there's significant work that's happening. Campus Compact, there's significant work that has been happening for many decades that is matured and is really working to ensure that civic and community engagement is institutionalized in higher education um,
Mhm.
across the U.S. And there's every most higher education institutions have programs to one degree or another. So yes, it's
Mhm.
true. There's a lot of work in this field that's being done that is really good work that does multiply, hopefully, because yeah, it does need to. Yes, like you said, it needs to happen. The world can't wait.
Yeah, we don't really have a choice. It has to happen. Now,
Yeah.
let me ask you this then. Maybe we'll wrap up after this question. Um, for those who are listening to this, who are maybe either faculty members or in positions where they can, maybe look into this and may create some change in their respective programs. Um, but let's say that they're in a program where service learning has not touched them yet for whatever reason, right? Because they've been really highly focused on doing applied mathematics or doing a very special branch of research in whatever, right? In pharmacy. I feel like that I'm trying to find an example where it feels like that maybe there's just nothing you can do, but I can't find one. Um,
It's
and
harder it
it's
can be
hard.
harder in the
Yeah,
sciences.
yeah. But let's say that you're doing that and you are all consumed. You and your students are so consumed with the material that academic material that you have, and it's hard material too. Like they have to go through so much. They have to think very abstractly. They have to do all these things in their respective fields, and service learning hasn't hit them. No one's knocked on their doors, but they're wondering, well, what could I do? Where would someone like that? Where would they? What can they do?
Well, two answers to that. One is it's frankly not for everybody. Maybe because some folks don't, like some faculty, it may not be something that they
Okay.
really have the passion for or have the wherewithal to want to do. And folks that don't want to do it or don't have a passion for it or don't see the purpose or reason for it, you can do more harm than good.
Mm,
Right. So I mean there is that it doesn't have to be for everybody. And I hear that a lot in the field too, is that it doesn't we're not trying to across the institution make sure that every single faculty member in every discipline does this. It may not be the best fit for everybody.
mm,
That said, though, lots of folks would argue that you can incorporate academic service into any discipline. There's a lot of really cool work. Like sciences is a little harder, and I see that at our institution. I don't see there's not a lot of community engagement in the sciences. I mean, we have some biology faculty members, some geosciences, some things like that. But some of the other like sciences, like physics, for example, I was chatting with someone the other day and I was like, I'm not sure what they would do in physics, right? But engineering, for example, there's some really cool examples of engineering projects for, like, for example, for rural communities. Like, let's talk about Native American folks that are on Native American reservations, right? Who still in the US don't have access to regular clean water. And engineering students could help build like water projects, things of that nature, or infrastructure for things. Um, so that, I mean, that would be an example of maybe some of the underrepresented fields, but it just depends. There's lots of resources, like I said, through Campus Compact and Sample Syllabi and IR Slice, who I'd mentioned, which is the International Research Association for Service Learning and Community Engagement, the longest acronym ever. But they have lots of people are always, because we're academics, we're all in higher ed. Everybody's always publishing and putting out work, and I mean,
Mhm.
there's a broad range of things that you can find out there. But there are some fields that are just more apt to want to do this work, like folks in the humanities, right? That's a field that I think is pretty well established in the world, but or in the world of community engaged learning, in the field of community engaged learning. So I don't know. I mean, I am a cheerleader for the pedagogy, so I'll always brainstorm with any faculty who wants to, but and I believe in it. National research backs that up. But at the same time, it's not, there's many different high impact practices that people can engage in, right? Like,
Sure, sure.
some faculty might really care more about undergraduate research. Some faculty might care more about global learning or, um, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Different things. So I think it just depends.
So here's what I would say. I hope that in a few years, well, it may take longer than a few years, but I could see that by the type of work that you are doing now and other folks at different, nationally and internationally are doing this right now, infusing, civic engagement, community engagement work into their various disciplines and also into the various liberal arts programs. A lot of programs have a liberal arts sort of foundation as well, which also brings all of that into it. um, I do think that whether you ended up, I predict that whether you're in a field that has many natural sort of outputs for civically minded work, that more and more people will be trained with the basic ideas in mind, so that it becomes a naturally valued thing, whichever field that you're in. So I hope that, for the work that you're doing, not only becomes sustainable as a system. So in another 20 more years, service learning could be called something else, but it will, I hope, no doubt, be even more sophisticated and more organized and have more, have more ways to engage people. Um,
Let's hope.
and that at the same time we also will get people who are currently in the undergraduates, right, just studying the undergraduate degree, but by then they might be ones who are working and teaching and working in the field, who are able to come back and bring more of this sort of multiple generations of knowledge, back into it. And having seen, having been in that generation where you were saying the sort of multi-generational studies, I think that looking forward is something really exciting too, because we will, I hope, have more people that are going to be driven by that passion and mission in life, very much like you do, um, and how they will contribute to the world.
Yay. It's awesome.
All right, Lucy, what a wonderful conversation. I just learned so much, and I enjoy that immensely.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah,
Um,
this was fun. This was
Yeah,
very fun. Thank you.
it's fun. I hope that we get to we'll hope we will keep in touch, and would love to check in with you every once in a while and see what's new. But meanwhile, keep up the amazing work. Keep up the good work with portfolios, but not only that, with everything else as well.
Thank you.
And I hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, Lucy.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. This concludes our conversation. To hear our next episode, Be sure to subscribe to Digication Scholars Conversations on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app. The Digication Scholars Conversation series is brought to you by Digication, a technology platform powering the most innovative ePortfolio programs in K-12 and higher education. Our website can be found at digication.com. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and share with a friend. Thanks for tuning in.